When I was going to school, Welcome. This is the September 15, 2025 New Garden Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. The Board of Supervisors held an executive session at 6 o'clock prior to this meeting.
It is fact.
And the purpose of the meeting was fact-finding. Next, we'll move into public comments. There's a 3-minute time limit, and this is for non-agenda items. The next item will have public comment on agenda items. If you have public comment on non-agenda items, please fill out a sticker in the back. Thank you. Okay, if there's no public comment on non-agenda items, we have it. Sam, you want to come up and speak about an agenda item?
Hi, I'm Sam Stanton, 108 Rocky Springs Road, and I'm here as a resident about White Clay Point and the road that potentially is going to attach to from the park into the development and the pump station. I just wanted to say for maybe to Ms. Sebastian, in terms of easement language or whatever legal document gets put together regarding that pump station and the road that comes from the park into the development. I'm an HOA manager. I've managed dozens of HOAs, and ultimately the HOA that's going to be there won't want people coming through there. They want to, whether the roads are public or private isn't decided. So you want to include language, I would suggest, that allows people like myself to come through the park and through that road to reach the school or to reach New Garden Park, et cetera. So just the idea of public egress and ingress through that road and community via the park would be something to think about. And then the pump station, you may want to size it. So if New Garden ever helps to solve the affordable housing crisis by doing what some communities out west do in land restricted areas, in Aspen, Jackson Hole, Vale, and others, they'll donate or they'll rent land to a developer for 99 years for $1 and let them build on it. And some of it will be Habitat for Humanity building. Some of it will be other developers who get the land essentially for free to build on. So if you did that with part of the park land at some point, you'll also want that, again, scope of that easement to allow those folks to go through that road, through the development to the stores, or you want them, and you want the pump station to be sized to handle that development. If you do add whatever, 20 homes or something like that. Because on the agenda, I know that affordable housing is an issue, and I spoke with Moskowitz and Maxwell at one point, and they said it's tough here because there's no housing department to oversee deed restricted. Where out west, they'll have deed restricted housing where there's a lottery and certain families will get it. You get into the housing and they can only resell it because it's deed restricted for what they paid plus the cost of living increase. And it gets sunset after a certain number of years. But when I spoke with them, they said there's no one to administer and watch over those deeds. So I hope we do come up with a solution eventually. I think it's a real issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We don't have a public hearing or recognitions at this meeting. The next agenda item is presentations. We have a presentation from the Southern Chester County Council on Housing Affordability and the Kennett Area Community Services, CACS. Chris, anything you want to add on that?
No, just as a precursor while I'm talking and trying to set up the presentation here. Word of the township's kind of interest in doing zoning policies to abet for more densities in terms of improving conditions for missing middle and possibly also workforce affordable housing type functions in the township. I've kind of circulated around, so we got outreach from the Southern Chester County, I guess almost newlish formed Southern Chester County Council on Housing Affordability. As an interested party, just wanted to come in and kind of provide some amplifying information about the issue in the area, both nationally, Chester County, Pennsylvania, Chester County, and locally here, as well as KACS wanted to also provide in some just additive information about kind of the issue at large and how many kind of current residents are impacted by this issue as well as our workforce members who work in the township. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself, and I'm trying to, up, and I'll give you the thumbs up when we're ready to go. Do you want to advance yourself or you want me to?
You can do it.
Okay.
My name is Burr Rothenberger, and I'm here with Cheryl Miles, the CACS Community Housing Development Director. Both of us work with the Southern Chester County Council on Housing Affordability. I also serve on the governance board for the Chester County Partnership to End Homelessness and on the Chester County Planning Commission's Housing Choices Committee. Next slide. It comes as no surprise to any of us that we have a housing crisis here in Chester County. There are parts of our county where reasonably priced dwellings to rent or to purchase just aren't available. There are large segments of our households that are either forced to live outside of our county or are paying an unsustainable portion of their income on housing. In the next few minutes, you will hear specifics about these issues that are surrounding housing in Chester County and in New Garden, and we'll put a face on the people and the households that are impacted by our housing crisis. Development of moderately priced housing in the county needs to increase dramatically. New Garden is on a path to make the changes that need to be made to make this happen. Next slide, please. Many who work here just can't live here. In 2024, the median home sales price in Chester County, whether it's single-family homes, townhomes, or condos, was over $525,000. There just isn't enough attainable housing being built, housing that's affordable. In 2024, only 6% of the homes sold were under $250,000, and that's down by 28% from 2023. All you have to do is look at the retail section of the real estate section of the newspaper, and you'll see that what we're building are large single-family homes and luxury apartments and townhomes. And it's not just construction of new homes. Rents are up too. Chester County's median rent in 2023 was $1,719 per month. It's much higher than that even now. But at $1,719 a month, that was $400 a month higher than Delaware, the median rent in Delaware and Chester County. Why is this a problem and why is it this way? For every dollar wages have increased since 2000, housing and transportation costs have increased $1.75. To afford a $250,000 home, if you could find one, you need to make about $87,000 a year. To afford the median rent of $1,719 a month back in 2023, you'd need to make $76,000. Remember those numbers, $87,000 and $76,000 when we get to the next slide. Out-of-date development approval processes and zoning ordinances, building codes drive up housing costs, and new housing just hasn't kept pace with the population growth. The result, many workers, the workers that we need for our economy to prosper, just can't afford to live where they work. Next slide, please. Okay, so who are we talking about? Housing is attainable and sustainable if a household spends 30% or less of their gross income on housing-related costs. Okay, they're the single mom who's a registered nurse with a starting salary of $68,000. They're the recently homeless family with a housing choice voucher. Well, wait a minute. Only 20% of the county landlords accept tenants with housing choice vouchers. They're the new college grad, maybe your son or daughter or grandchild, who can't find a reasonably priced apartment. Here are some of the starting salaries for professionals. Computer programmer, 58,000. Civil engineer, 63,000. Social worker, 36,000. Remember those numbers up from the last slide? $76,000 to afford the median Chester County rent. They're the EMT with a starting salary of 36,000. Do you want your EMT living in Lancaster or Maryland? They're the Walmart clerk making $19 an hour. That's only $40,000 a year. That would qualify a household for a housing choice voucher. They're seniors who want to live close to their family. The senior population in Chester County is expected to almost double, reaching 129,000 by 2045. That's 20% of the population. And look at the bullet at the very bottom. 40% of our county's workforce are in retail, healthcare, accommodation, education, and food service jobs, and the median income of all of those jobs is $61,000 or less. Next slide, please. Okay, so what's the takeaway here? We need a diversified workforce, but our housing system just isn't fair. There are parts of the county where homes can't be rented or bought at reasonable prices. This is forcing people to live far away from where they work, and it has a dramatic impact on their lives and the lives of their families. When workers spend a large part of their day commuting, they don't have time for community engagement, like volunteering, like attending meetings like this. It also impacts their family life, leading to stress and social impacts that actually impact all of us, social issues that impact us all. Seniors who want to downsize, which also frees up existing housing stock if they can, but they can't find a reasonably priced place. They're stuck in a home that's too big, one they can't and don't want to maintain. The Chester County Economic Development Council, that's the group that promotes business and industry in the county, says that the lack of housing has become a significant deterrent for new businesses wanting to relocate here or existing businesses who want to expand. Yeah, it is a tough problem, but other areas have tackled it successfully. Atlanta, Durham, North Carolina, Seattle, Burlington, Vermont, Minneapolis are just a few of them. Next slide, please. Elected and appointed officials, such as you folks here, do understand the need for action. The Chester County Planning Commission, the Economic Development Council, the Chester County Commissioners, they all have asked for and supported an all-out attack on our housing crisis problem. Everybody agrees that solving this crisis should be and is a major goal. Local policy makers see housing as critical to economic growth, stabilizing neighborhoods, and improving individual health and well-being. Federal and state funding is available for affordable housing. It's the numbers, folks. We're just not building enough housing to keep up with our growth, and often what we are building doesn't match what many folks want and can afford. Cheryl, in just a minute, will have more information about this as it applies to New Garden. But finally, all too often it's the communities, all the stakeholders, not taking the actions needed to solve the problem. That's not happening here in New Garden. You're getting at it, and you aren't alone. Other Chester County municipalities are also working on updating zoning codes. Oxford, Kennett Square, Westchester, Malvern, West Goshen, just to name a few. And now I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl to talk specifically about New Garden.
Thank you, Bert. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cheryl Mize, and I am the Community Housing Development Director at Kennett Area Community Services, otherwise known as CACS. Bert did a really good job on just kind of giving a global State of the Union for Chester County. What I like to do is just to kind of bring it to New Garden Township. A lot of times when we hear information, we say, what does it mean to me? What does it mean for my area? So I was really glad to be able to look into the information as it results to New Garden Township. Right now, your population is about 11,423. That's the estimated population from for right now in 25. It is a slight improvement or a slight increase from the 2020 census. And there was 11,363. It's important to understand that the median age for your population is 39. For males, it's about 41. For females, it's about 39 years old. That's really significant in meaning the type of families that or households that are here, that they're not necessarily new to raising a family. They've had some establishment into the community. The significant for here is for the medium household income. The household income here is 134,259. So there is a very large amount here as far as your income, and there's a very low. But what happens is that it becomes, as you look at the numbers, sometimes it's skewed. But what we find is significant for this area here is that your medium income is fairly high. And it's even higher than Chester County's area medium income, which is 123,000. Your poverty rate is at 7.9%, which is higher than Chester County, which is at 9.94%. That's about 903 of your residents here in Chester County. The poverty rate has been established by a threshold that the federal government has said that anything below that would be eligible for government assistance. We find it really important now to pay attention to the ALICE population. That ALICE population is the access limited, income constraint employed. Those are the persons whose incomes are from 60% of the area median income up to 120. Those are persons who are still struggling to be able to maintain housing in Chester County, but they're not eligible for any type of government assistance. Last year, CAC served for the individuals in the New Garden Township 491 families, equaling 1,406 individuals. That's a significant number of persons to be served in a particular area. And as you see from the graph there, that it's not one particular area of New Gardens Township, it does spread your geographic area. Next slide. Bert talked about who are the people who are in need of housing. And what I thought was really interesting to just gather some information regarding the particular trades and professions that are in here in New Gardens Township. You see, you have retail and services. That's your retail, hospitality, and food. That's about $32,000 a year. For contract and trades, it's $43,000. If you go down to professionals, it's about $86,000. And for agriculture, it's about 87. Those are significant so that when we look at the next slide, when you see what people make versus what they have to pay for rent or for purchasing housing, you see where some of the challenges are, why affordable housing is needed. Next slide. There's about 3,900 households in New Gardens Township. And the average size of the families now, about 2.8 people. What I've noticed through some of the research is that the families are getting smaller, they're aging for seniors. You have more new families or young people who are starting out who may not necessarily have a family or just have one. households, they're no longer the traditional large families. So what we've noticed in this particular area, and I think it's really common throughout Chester County, is families are becoming smaller. The average medium household, the average medium home value is about $5,100 for here in Chester County. For here in New Gardens Township. For Chester County, it's 461,000, excuse me, getting nervous up here. For rent, the average for New Gardens Township is $1,285. There's about 60% home ownership, which really shows for stability here in New Gardens Township, and about 20% are renters. When we talk about rent, when we talked about the professions and the trades that are here in this area, if you have, I think I mentioned, where there are professionals who are making about $87,000 a year. And when Bert said affordable housing is considered 30% of your income, for a person who makes about $87,000, the rent should be about $2,200 a month. For someone who's making $44,000, the rent for 30% of their monthly income would be $1,100. And for $32,000 a year, 30% of the monthly income would be $800. When we look at the rent for $1,200 in this particular area, and we know that there's a significant amount of families that are making 80%, $80,000, I'm sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up, $80,000 or less, they really are struggling because the amount that I gave you was before taxes. Once you take taxes out and any other expenses that they have, that really leaves a significant amount of monies, a less significant amount of monies for them to be able to work with. So affordable housing is really important. When I looked at the Chester County Planning Commission's report, they identified for this particular area for affordable housing, the gap is about 678 for units. And that's for people who have incomes, 60% of the area medium income and lower. And the gap for attainable housing, those are families that generally fall within the ALICE population. It's about 1,035 units. So really to even level up for families who may need affordable housing, you would need about 1,713 units. Here in Newtown, New Garden Township, there's a potential for one in three households to be struggling with housing. Therefore, there really is a need to think about alternative type of housing for all your residents in this area to receive affordable housing. Next slide. These are just some of the basic reasons why Newtown, I am sorry, I don't know why I keep saying Newtown, New Garden Township is in need of affordable housing. There is a change in demographics. You have more singles, retirees, and small families. You need smaller homes and more affordable. You need a variety of homes that meets different income levels. You have the young professionals, but you also have the seniors with limited income, and you have working families. really need to evaluate and to look into zoning and development vision. You know, the consideration for mixed-use developments and a variety of housings. And I know there's always that delicate balance of preserving the semi-rural characteristics of the community, but also to meet the housing means of your residents and don't create overdevelopment. And also for economic and stability and social stability, if you want to retain a workforce, you have, and reduce the community burden that was mentioned during Bert's presentation, and you want to maintain a very diverse population, affordable housing is definitely needed. I'm really excited to know that we are partners with a township that really takes affordable housing to heart and is looking at every opportunity in every way to be able to ensure that every person has housing, has access to housing that they can afford. Thank you.
So I only have one slide for this one. It's basically just to summarize, and this was at the request of KACS and the council. I'm just going to shorten your name to the council for now. What the township's kind of role involvement in all of this really means, and it's kind of one where you've had the shock and awe of the zoning map kind of come out, and what does that mean in terms of how that correlates to potential seeking for improvements for housing outcomes, and then what kind of houses they're going to be, market rate, high cost homes, affordable homes, tighter density type of homes. And the answer to that is it kind of depends on the zoning district, where it is, how much utility infrastructure is there, the topography of the site, kind of the limitations of the size of the parcel. There's a multitude of factors that really go into it. So there's no one clean answer. So at the end of the day, and the last slide kind of said, it kind of cleanly balanced growth. And that's kind of when you factor everything in, that's what this kind of zoning project and some of the things that we're looking at in terms of allowances for housing standards achieves is an opportunity for balanced growth based off of existing infrastructure, based off of all of those, we'll call them availability for potential future properties, adaptable, reusable properties. All of that is kind of been explained previously in other planning presentations when we did kind of the first rollout of the zoning, when we talked about what the estimates for future build-out and buildability in the township was when we did Act 209. A lot of different types of learnings came out from that. But at the end of the day, since this board has been very wanting to look at what it means, right now, and it was in the state of the township, we did it as a segue into our budget planning cycle. It was a presentation given at the end of August. Almost nobody attended, so I'm pretty sure you haven't seen the slides. But with that, we kind of fleshed out some of the existing demographic kind of issues in terms of who's here, what does that mean for kind of the cost of homes, supply and demand. And all that's to say over the course of even the last 10 years, and it's a national issue as much as it is a local issue, there's been about a 65% market rate increase in the cost of homes in the township. And that's just based off of going on multiple different kind of, housing kind of like your Trulios or Zillows, your market assessment of what's getting selling in the township, given our zip codes. And we have 4 zip codes in the township. So I did more of an exhaustive zip code kind of search and made an assumption more so than narrowing it down to like within the exact boundaries of the township. But let's just say that there's not a lot of differentiation in housing types of homes as you bleed into different townships around this location. So that's where you can kind of understand that based off of prices of homes back in 2017 versus today with increase in rates and how much they cost, the average AMI to buy a home in the township has doubled. And that's where we're getting to right now is it's very expensive to live here. And what does that mean for people who currently live here that might want to shift to a different type of house in their community, maybe to roll over that equity. Also, somebody seeking an opportunity in their area, it kind of prices people out before they even have a chance to get started. And that's what the board wanted to address. So with that, where are we talking about? Where we're looking at some of those residential districts that have more ability to look for additive densities in areas that the township wanted to anchor growth in. So that's along mostly your Baltimore Pike corridor, as you can see kind of the cluster map in red there, expansion area around the village of Tuff-Kenneman. Because what we ended up asking was from a potential affordable developer or developer in general is what creates the condition for possibility to build some sort of affordable element because that's one where the township doesn't have a lot of strength in terms of our ability to usher in like a housing development for an affordability. Like we'd have to buy the land, do the whole development, we have to partner. And so with that, they're just mostly looking at flexibility of zoning in terms of buildability onto the site, to the cost of the development. And this is really the biggest one. Right now, today, it's not an easy equation to just tie into an existing sewer system, fix stormwater, because our infrastructure is one where it either doesn't exist or in its sudden utter state of disrepair that you not only have to do the cost to tie in, but then you have to replace the entire existing system in and of itself. So this is kind of the biggest roadblock for not even just affordable housing, just housing in general in the community. And then in that part, when it comes to if you're going to partner with a affordable housing developer that wants to increase their scoring level from getting back HUD credits in order to be able to invest back in the site, it has to, we'll call it score well. So with that, you want to build it in an area that there's access to transportation, not in like a food desert, just kind of those basic amenities that you would have for that kind of opportunity. And then also just partnering to understand who in the area can help us do this, because at the end of the day, the township doesn't have like housing authority. We don't have like a housing director function. We're not planning on it. It's not really baked into what second-class townships do. So this is one where set the table is kind of the responsibility for the township, and then partner with those who are looking for doing these types of outcomes in your community. And then that's kind of it. And then just do the best that you can. I know you mentioned in terms of the total units that you could possibly achieve, but it's one in the township where that's one where we're hard capped based off of utility infrastructure. So just housings alone, we can't get to that number. So we're basically in a do as much as you can kind of position, if that makes sense. So without further ado, I'll roll it over to potential questions from the board and the residents. And if it's more towards the issue, I would probably say that KCS and the council can probably do a better job than I can. So thank you.
Any questions from the board?
I just have a question, and I'm not sure if you could speak to it, but a lot of the concerns that people have is that if more houses go up, that'll decrease the value of their current properties. So are you able to speak to that, what that effect might have?
That's a great question, and it's a question that comes up all the time. But the data shows that a properly designed, affordable house with the density that you really need to make the numbers work can be extremely attractive. I have pictures of of two houses in Swarthmore. Swarthmore is an old community. It's got some gorgeous two-story old houses. And I have a picture of one single-family house and a picture of another house that has 4 apartments in it. You cannot tell the difference between the two houses. They look exactly the same. Can you go back to Cheryl's slide with the missing middle there? That's the kind of housing we used to build in the 1940s and 50s. We built duplexes, triplexes. We had duplexes surrounding a courtyard where families could play together and socialize together. We're doing on the left and on the right, single family homes and large townhouse or condominiums. We need to get back to building duplexes and triplexes. They can be extremely attractive, and that's how you get the numbers. You need to increase the density. That's the easy way to do it. And the data shows that if you build those kinds of houses, it does not reduce the value of the single family homes that are nearby.
Don? Can you just introduce yourself, Don?
Don Morgan, Hartfeld. Surely some of the issue is on the income side. I've never lived in a state with such a low minimum wage. And it may not be the primary earner, but the second earner. We're surrounded by states with $15, $13, and we're $7.25. And we have regulations for agriculture that allows them not to pay overtime, is what I understand. So I think you need to hit the income side. I don't see housing getting cheaper. In my 80 years on the planet, it's gone one way. and incomes just haven't kept up.
Any,
Call Representative Sappy and ask her why the minimum wage isn't $15.
any other questions from the residents? Can you just come up and announce yourself?
We needed recording. You're on record.
Thank you. No pressure.
Hi, I'm Donna Lewis from Harrogate, and I understand the problem that we have in the township. However, you're talking about many people moving into an area, well, I'm basically talking about, White Clay Point. The roads are awful. They should be considered doing the roads first and then doing the development. We have to, all those people moving in, if you have ever been down to Rehoboth Beach, and they have 4 lanes, and it is like an hour to get from the beginning of Rehoboth down to Dewey. It takes you an hour. So what I'm saying is that traffic is going to be awful. So that's the first thing that should be addressed. Thank you.
Has anybody looked at Route 1 lately in the morning and in the evening? Suppose those folks lived closer to where they worked. Don't you think the traffic would get a little better? Oh, I do. I do. And actually, the data shows that when you reduce the amount of the commute time, the traffic will get less, and it won't be what you think it's going to be.
I think another thing, just to add to this, it's not really about moving people into the area. You have a lot of people who are already in your community who are struggling to be able to maintain housing. So it's finding that balance. It is working with the township and to be able to figure out the road maps and all for the highways and the byways. But you have people who are struggling right now in some of the properties here, right? Hard to maintain. So let's try to help the people who are here. Then it'll work. Then you have time to be able to work out for other people to come. One of the things I'm always concerned about is when we talk about affordable housing, we always think that's going to attract other people. Well, yeah, it's going to put a signal out there that there's housing, but you have so many people right here in your area who need it. I don't want us to forget about them.
Just to kind of add to that statement, if you don't, believe the data she just presented, the school district actually has reports on like the income for the district itself, and 40% of the students in school districts are under the poverty level. So I mean, it's here now. You may not see it, you may not like live by it, but it is here, and people do need some type of help.
Bob?
How's everybody doing? I'm Bob Parati, and my question is, the township's advocated open space for a number of years. Do you want to continue to advocate open space, or do you want to continue to build cluster homes like this that's going to bring hundreds of thousands of people in? School districts being built that are being built like in New Garden. They built a school like a college campus. The school taxes are going through the roof. The township taxes have gone up. Everything is going up for the people who live in this area. I was born here. I lived on Reynolds Road, which used to be part of Broad Run Road. My father and mother never owned a house. They rented. My father worked a job. My mother worked 2 jobs. There's a lot of people that have to do that, and the wages are too low. I'll go along with that. But people who are in business, they have to make money too. I did learn something here tonight, though, that was kind of interesting. I have 7 apartments, and they're not paying near what they should be according to this guy's average. So that I did learn. So I don't know how you're going to accomplish this. You know, nobody, just like this guy said here about, that's the one question that they get. If you bring it in, you don't want your house. When I built my house in the last house I built 2 houses. The first house I built in 1976, I paid $41,000 for it. I sold it 22 years later and I sold it for $179,000. I went across the hill and bought one right above the Landenberg store for $250,000. My neighbor's house just sold for almost $800,000. I don't know what my house is worth because they're going to carry me out in a box. That's where I'm going to stay. My wife and I we love it there. We're not going anywhere. If the township allows us to stay there, that's where we're going to stay. If the school district allows us to stay there, that's where we're going to stay. But you got to find a way. You got to come in here with better answers than what we've heard here tonight on how this is all going to be accomplished. Listen, I come from a poor family. I have a feeling for people that are like that. I do what I can for people like that. But you got to have answers. The county's got to do it. The township has to do it, and the state has to do it. And it all has to be combined. We'll come back here in another 10 years, and these things still won't be accomplished. You hear it all the time. You hear it all the time. That's all I got to say. Sorry it took my time.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks very much for the presentation tonight. Moving on to the agenda, next we have the minutes. Included in the meeting materials, we have the minutes from the August 18th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. Can I have a motion to approve such minutes?
So I'll make a motion, but there's 2 amendments I need to add. Under Township Personnel, I believe Kenny Reed was present, number 1. And number 2, number 15, which it states Township Fire Land, it should say Fire Lane, so it's just a typo. With those corrections, I'll adopt the minutes.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the treasurer's report. So we have paid invoices in the amount of $2,920 and unpaid invoices in the amount of $526,137.76. Steve, do you want to give your caveat?
So on the bills, I have to recuse. There are 2 checks for my employer for services that are rendered. One in the amount of $255 and one in the amount of $1,652.45.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a motion to approve the paid and unpaid invoices in the amounts that I cited?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Next, there's no public safety report this month, and then we move into the monthly department report. Chris?
For the sake of the board, there wasn't really much in terms of a monthly incremental change in terms of just the performance of, we'll call it the general monthly operations in the township. Just some highlights. It actually circulated out on the township's Facebook feed recently, but the paving program successfully implemented phase 1 of Hillendale Road. Of course, we got questions about when you're doing the other half. So it seems that everyone was kind of waiting for it to happen. And as soon as it happened, now they can't wait for it to be completed. So just know that that is scheduled for the summer of 2026, next year. And then with that, the only other update was essentially just the highlight of the success of the air show that went down last month. And we had a heavy attendance in the New Garden flying field. and estimates were around about 8,000 people attending. And the revenues over expenditures for it, we actually got a surplus because of donations of about $40,000 to $50,000 plus on top of it. So all around success. And now it's, you have to keep up with the Joneses, plan for something bigger and better next year. So,
Thank you, Chris.
and sorry, yes, of course, the monthly report's actually in the agenda for tonight. So if you want to go back and just look at it, that's fine too.
Any questions for Chris? There's no unfinished business this month, and moving into the new business. So we have a presentation on New Garden Hills Park, followed by a Community Day brief. Thank you, Mike.
You want to talk you in? You good to go here? You good to go? All right.
I'm gonna be. Get the clicker.
I do.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Buck. I'm the Director, Parks and Open Space. Tonight, I'll be providing a review of the New Garden Hills, kind of at a high level, the New Garden Hills Master Plan update. It's really a plan that I think reflects years of community inputs, kind of planning and envisioning. Now, it has been a hot minute since we talked about the park, so we're going to go back to the beginning, start with site history and a timeline recap. We'll go over the previous plan, talk about existing conditions, considerations for the revisions, the revised plan itself, public, private, partnership opportunities. We'll discuss phasing by zone. We'll go over projected costs and funding options. Of course, there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end. Before we get to the public questions, we would like to engage with the board, to get their feedback. So over the years, the site has been used as farmland, mining keel and clay, as a public watering hole, or swimming hole / watering hole. It was a camp, a church-run camp. And then in 2018, the township purchased it with the intention of preserving open space and opening a new municipal park. So it was purchased for a total of $1.5 million. So 1.3 of that came out of the open space fund. And then there were $215,000 in grant funding that also supported the purchase. There was an additional $70,000 spent in consultant fees and closing costs, most of which was covered by the open space fund. So since acquiring the property, township staff and a group of volunteers have been busy maintaining the site and preparing it for future development. Again, in 2018, it was purchased. The recreation opportunity assessment was completed. Environmental testing was completed. Deerfield mowing and property maintenance moves on site. In 2019, the master park plan RFP goes out. The trail prioritization plan was completed. In 2020, master park plan project is awarded to YSM. COVID. 2021, third-party pool lease begins. The YSM master plan was completed. Township approves traditional picnic and playground rehabilitation project. Township creates and hires a Parks and Open Space superintendent. In 2022, this was a busy year. We secured grant funds that were awarded for the Phase 2 rehabilitation project. Cedarville Engineering was selected to manage that phase. They completed a number of field studies and put together preliminary construction plans and cost estimates. The historic White House, we call it the White House, is the old farmhouse on the property, was renovated for use as a caretaker home. We removed over 200 plus hazard trees. The amphitheater, the large one, was cleared of overgrowth for an engineering safety assessment. Riparian buffer installation was put in place along a portion of the Broad Run by the Master Watershed Steward Program. And then there were a series of electrical kind of upgrades that were completed going from the park entrance on Limestone Road back into the pool. The police also established a patrol schedule for the park. We repaired a sinkhole. The park was officially renamed New Garden Hills. Park mission statement was created. Branding and entrance signage concept was developed. Street names were created and approved for emergency response purposes. Traffic sign exhibit was created and revised by our township engineer and township staff. Central line were added to the main drive. Park access evaluation study and recommendations were completed by the township engineer. For the Phase 1 nature trail project was approved. In 2023, we secured additional funding to support that Phase 1 trail. We demolished 18 demised structures. There's public discussion around the actual YSM master plan implementation cost. The Board of Supervisors decided to halt Phase 2 traditional picnic and playground development and commission a scaled-back master plan. So the master plan revision process begins with Pannoni, our township engineer. And a second round of demolition was completed, I believe, for 2 additional structures in September, and then the trail opened in November. 2024, we saw riparian buffer and the Keelan Trail maintenance. We terminated the lease agreement with Deerfield just in preparation for future park development. Pannoni completes the revised master plan draft, and then we were able to reallocate some of the grant funds that were originally awarded for the Phase 2 project to the Limestone Road entrance regrading. So in 2025, there's been more maintenance, and the Limestone Road regrading project is on track for completion this fall. It's actually out to bid right now. So total cost over the past 7 years for maintenance and planning total up to just under $470,000. Again, most of which was supported by the Open Space Fund. And while we've done a lot of work, the park as it exists today still needs some additional work until we can get it open for the public. So access and location, if you're not familiar with where it's at, it hasn't moved anywhere. It's still at the intersection of Route 41 and 7. The park features lots of mature forests, meadows, streams, ponds, all of which really add to kind of the scenic and ecological value of the site. Water, electric, and sewer do exist on site, but they're limited. The buildings that are still there include the castle here, the stable building, we call the Boy Scout building, that tenant house, the White House I mentioned earlier, and a number of pavilions, about 3 pavilions. The swimming pool and its associated buildings. We got storage and maintenance buildings, amphitheaters too, the remnants of the golf course, and then a number of driveways and parking areas. We do have Keelan Trail, a variety of fencing, railings, and decks throughout. And then again, we did remove, it was approximately 20 structures from the site. So how does the new plan relate to the old one? Well, we started by building upon the previous assessments that were completed. So that includes the recreation opportunity assessment, the comprehensive plan update, the trail prioritization plan, the township greenways plan, as well as the 2021 YSM master plan. There's a lot of great information that all these assessments pulled together. I think everyone can agree that the 2021 YSM master plan was a bit ambitious. So we came in for that plan originally projected to cost just over $18 million. Now, there were some key considerations that were left out of this plan, most of which were related to utilities and infrastructure and buildings. So when you add all those up, we came to around 10.6 million in unaccounted for work. And then when you factor in inflation, and this was done in 2023, we came to a total updated project cost of $32 million. So, yep, it's a big number. But again, out of this whole process, there's some really good information, right? So, so we wanted to go back and use that as a foundation for moving forward. So in the public outreach process, there were a number of in-person meetings. There were a variety of needs surveys that went out, and all of that information was kind of leading to a couple key priorities, right? Those priorities were trails, nature experience, natural resources, and cultural legacy. So when you think about those for New Garden Hills, it's really kind of like trails, nature, and preserving some of the character of the park. So, with this information, that myself and members of the Parks and Rec Board, two of which are here tonight, Claire and Brianna, wanted to work together to identify some recreational opportunities to fold into this new plan, all of which were based on these needs assessment. So with that information, we get to kind of some of these priorities here. So we'd like to focus on hiking trails, mountain bike trails, pollinator meadows, the use of the large pond for things like bird watching, wildlife observation, art classes, education classes, a recreation event space, fishing, dedicated vendor area for events, preserving the castle, like open air event and picnic space behind the castle, reuse the existing pavilion structures when possible, a basic playground with swings and natural elements, continue to improve the pond health throughout the park, and then some birdhouses. Some additional suggestions include things like archery, pickleball, tennis courts. Again, tying into the character of the park, maybe like some funky painted murals and unique benches that kind of enhance that character. We have a castle already, so why not go full send on a Renaissance fair? Private partnerships, which might include things like an arcade, a dance space, music, concerts, theater, beer garden, even perhaps a ninja playground. Those are growing in popularity these days. So it was really, it's a combination of the prior inputs with staff and Parks and Rec inputs that we get to our overall recommendations. So starting with the existing park entrance, we would upgrade the entrance to include dedicated signage, updated landscaping, some traffic improvements, again, which we're already working on along Route 7, repaving the parking lot and the entry road down into the park. The welcome hub, this is really like a core kind of concept of the new plan, is having this central hub where everyone can go and then spread out from the park from there. There'd be picnic groves throughout the park, including at the welcome hub. There'd be nature playscape at the welcome hub. There'd be nature education interpretation opportunities throughout the property, and there'd be limited building renovations. So instead of going in, remodeling the whole castle and finding a use for it, we're just going to stabilize it, make it safe, make it look good, have it be a focal point versus like a functional space that's expensive. We'd have a restroom in the welcome hub. There'd be wildflower meadows throughout. Again, pond rehabilitation on all 4 ponds, with additional focus on the ponds in the welcome hub and over by the amphitheater, focusing on putting in a big dock, having some fishing opportunities there, so a space for education and events. The remaining obsolete structures that are there, there's at least 1, possibly 2 that would be removed. The swimming pool, there was a previous effort to revitalize that site, which didn't come to fruition. So we seek partnerships to activate that space. And then for utilities, so any township owned facility or park feature, we would design it to have low utility demands so that it could work within the capacity of the existing utilities there. So together, all these ideas, I think, come together in what we believe was definitely a more simpler, more realistic approach. Again, one that focuses on the trails, the nature, and preserving some of the character of the park. So over here on the left-hand side, in all its glory, we have the former plan at $32 million, compared to on the right, which is the new plan, which again focuses on trails, natural elements, and then the central hub here coming in at just under $5.2 million. You can see there's a striking difference between the two, with the one on the right being built around, again, public feedback and priorities versus the one on the left. This is a visual overview of the welcome hub. See the castle's in the center here. We've got dedicated parking, event space, an area for food trucks and vendors, playground, restroom, pavilion, revitalized pond. You've got walking paths that connect all of these features, as well as a connector into existing and then future trail networks. So we get to the point where you talk about White Clay Point's integration with this. So we think this plan is achievable without White Clay Point moving forward, but an ideal situation, it would be built out in parallel with the White Clay Point development. It's going to add, there'll be a couple benefits to that, one of which would be the addition of 2 new vehicle entrances to the park. One that would come in off of Route 41 here and come down into the hub. The other that would come off of Reynolds Road and come into the pool area. And then we have 2 footpaths that would connect the neighborhood and into the park, the northwest corner. This also might be a good time to re-engage with our Harrogate and Somerset Lake residents. I think a couple years ago, I reached out to the community to see if anyone was interested in connections into the park. It didn't really pan out at the time, but you know, if there's a renewed interest in that, you know, now's the opportunity where we might be able to work that in the plan. So hit me up if you're interested in that. This is a landscape architect's kind of like rendering of what that Route 41 entrance would look like coming off of 41, again, down into the park, into the hub area. This is the proposed traffic pattern in the park. So from each of the 3 entrances here, there would be 2-way traffic flow into what would be a 1-way central loop. There's this little spur here that comes off to the northwest, which is 2-way traffic, kind of loops back and then comes back into this 1-way central loop. So approved road names tie into kind of like the history of the site, as well as kind of improve emergency response if it's needed. So the names are Father Roberto Drive, Yellow Clay Lane, Lafferty Lane, Isaac Jackson Lane, Marble Pit Lane, and Amphitheater Lane. And I did work with some folks from the Historical Commission and the Friends of New Garden Trails to identify these names, as it was quite challenging to find, how many is that? 6 new road names that don't match anything else in Chester County. And this would be the phasing map. So we would propose starting at the Limestone Road entrance, working into the Welcome Hub, and then from there, expanding out through what would be zones like 3 through 8. Zones 9, 10, and 11 fit more into like a public-private partnership kind of zoning option, which we'll talk about a little later. But to add some more detail around what each phase would look like, how much it would cost, how many years, or what the timing is around implementation. So Zone 1, the entry arrival area, estimated to cost around $515,000. We formalize a beautified main entrance from Limestone Road and take about 1 to 2 years. Zone 2, the Welcome Hub, is coming in just at under $2 million, or I'm sorry, just over $2 million to establish a welcoming arrival point to the hub for walking trails and primary park features. Take about 3 to 5 years to build out. Zone 3, the South Meadow, coming in at $595,000, would expand walking trails, creating ADA compliant paths, adding signage, meadow planting, stream bank restoration. And just a note here, a quick note, I think in the presentation, if anyone's following along electronically or with the packet that was online, for some reason, Zone 3 matched Zone 1's description, so I caught that and changed that today, which is why that's different. That would take 3 to 5 years for a build out. Zone 4 and the North Hollow would be just under 16,000. So that's just basic cleanup, removal of invasive species, plant species. 3 to 5 years. Zone 5, North Meadow, $290,000. That would establish kind of like grass, rock, walking trails and naturalizing the landscape and take about 5 to 7 years. Zone 6, native restoration, coming in at like $373,000 to remove unsightly buildings and commercial uses, restore these areas to nature. This is also the area where the proposed Route 41 entrance would come through here and then loop down into the hub. Zone 7, the Summit, coming in at $624,000. This was the former traditional playground and picnic area from that phase 2 plan, which now we're calling Zone 7, the Summit, to establish the usable picnic grounds and passive amenities. We've got the pond loop coming in at $595,000, establishing the pond loop as a ADA accessible walking route, mostly utilizing the paved driveways in there. And then zone 9, the caretaker's house. So this would be just a an effort to put in a split rail fencing and signage to kind of separate the private areas associated with the tenant house. So as people come into the park, there's that separation. There'd also be some addition of like some interpretive, like historical signage there for folks to check out. This is a spreadsheet kind of itemizing all the costs by zone, totaling up all the items on the right-hand column, if you're interested in that, all of which brings us to our total of just under $5.2 million. So we talked about the costs. Well, how are we gonna pay for this, right? So part of that strategy would be having a grant funding strategy in place. So we'd look at both regional and state programs. So some of the regional programs include like Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. For state programs, we've got DCED, like Greenways and Trails Grant, the Watershed Restoration Protection Program. We've got the CFA Local Share Account Grant. For DCNR, we're going to grants like the Recreation and Trails Program, the C2P2 Grant, as well as Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. So this is just a snapshot of what's available out there. We put these up here as examples because they strongly align with what we're trying to accomplish at the park. We would work closely with our grant coordinator to identify as many funding sources as possible to help offset the cost. And this slide here, so there are 5 areas that the township has identified in the park that we think would be best served and better activated through public-private partnerships, all of which would also generate some revenue that would go into the implementation of the park. Zone 1 is the pool and amphitheater. Zone 2 is the farmhouse. Zone 3 is the limestone garage. Zone 4 is the stable building. Zone 5 is the scout building. So, the township recognized the opportunity to seek private investment in the park for the 5 areas that are delineated as non-protected areas. So they're as such because they are their physical structures and pervious surface located on the property that was primarily purchased with the open space funds. So I think the best use of those 5 areas appear to be ones that would require the separation of each from the property as a whole. So generally separating portions of the parklands to be used for public-private partnerships requires court approval. If successful, we would put out RFPs that align with our visioning for the park and our efforts to connect the community to the park, which would include things like indoor-outdoor beer garden, small market event space, ice cream shops, a larger space for outdoor programming. So additional township funding sources here. Yeah, and overall, the goal is to increase the available cash to serve as grant matches to build out each phase of the park, similar to the strategy at Smedley Preserve. The Parks and Recreation Fund. The fund was established with community recreation fee in lieu of revenues from land development and consolidation of former sewer sale proceeds. We currently have about $285,000 in that fund. We have the Open Space Fund, which again, we can use 25% of the total fund balance for maintenance operations and park implementation as part of our current strategy for Smedley Preserve, which we'll be focusing on through FY27. For the public-private partnerships, it's negotiating with Stonewall Capital as part of the developer's contribution to improve the park as a significant amenity for the proposed White Point development. And this would be in addition to the proposed contributions to establish park access at Route 41 and Reynolds Road. So then as part of the proposed RFP for a public-private partnership, and future bid proceeds of the transfer of property could then be used to fund the park. Miscellaneous funding could also include exploring the liquidation of the airport tower to fund the project. So I think with that, we're done talking about the funding sources and the presentation as a whole. So thanks for listening, everyone. I wanted to just check in with the board and kind of see what your thoughts were on this.
I think it looks great. I think you did an excellent job, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I think obviously the phasing in is, really important, so we can go back to the well repeatedly with those grant fundings, and looking for a public-private partnership will be important to stretch those dollars. So thank you for that.
And just to kind of get out in front, because this was an important point, and you can go back to that one slide if you want, the takeaway here in terms of a funding element, this is at essentially only use of restricted funds and or partnerships. So we're not planning on doing generative amount of additional revenues, real estate tax uses, general fund type stuff. So this is kind of a separate commissionable project, very similar to what we're doing with the Smedley Preserve. So I know it's one where that can kind of, you see a number and like, oh my gosh, taxes are going to go up, but that's not the case here.
Any other questions or thoughts from the board?
So a lot of work went into this, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Gall.
Very nice presentation, and I'm sure that the township residents are ecstatic over the fact that there are great plans coming in at $27 million less than the original concept plan.
I would hope so.
I'm curious to know, when, obviously you're going to go through some serious grant funding strategies as you just explained, but I'm curious to know, for whatever the township does not receive in grants funding, how will the remainder of the balance of this revised budget be paid for? Chris, if you want to shine on some light on that.
No, I
And
think
you
it's
had just mentioned, I just wanted to confirm that the taxes will not go up at all.
no. So
Really?
that's why it's a phased approach. And so it's based off of, we'll call it the sustainable revenue coming through the open space fund. So that is a restricted fund for the purposes of preservation of open space properties. And of course, the township has spent the last 2 years or so tooling that to have availability for funds to purchase open space, but then under the Act 32 policy, which allows us to use 25% of the net accrued fund balance as funding for seed funding for implementations for parks, for projects such as this. Now with that, that money is more serving as a grant match. If we don't get the grant, then that's one where the phasing will basically be based off of, we'll accrue money as a cash kind of pay-go strategy. So it'll just elongate the timeline for implementation. Perfect world, you would want to have this up and running in a few years, so you're not chasing a $5 million number that, as you said, even with inflation could eventually creep up, and you're just kind of slowly pumping money into it that's ever increasing, which would expand the scope of the project. But using that same approach, it would always be through just continuation of the use of open space funds as a foundation, and then always seeking grants on top of that.
Several years ago, the board made a decision to, as I recall, tap the $5 million it cost to build the new Southern Chester County Regional Police Facility from the proceeds from the sale of this wastewater system. With regard to the payment schedules envisioned for this, has the township considered, had they considered the possibility of again tapping the excess funds from the sale of the wastewater system? Is that ever been on the docket? Given the fact that you've already made the decision to fund the police facility from funding from the wastewater treatment sale, I was just curious if the township had ever considered that with regard to paying off that big bill.
Yeah.
Or is that still being considered?
I think the funds are tapped out, correct? Because they're shoveling as much cash as we can in to fill the hole that was left by previous administrations. So all the money that we can is going into any interest revenue is going into funding those deficits to keep taxes as low as possible. So if we start eating
Yeah.
away at that, the principal, then obviously that's less money. So
So
we
to,
need to get other things fixed first, I think.
just to, because we did it in the budget update as we started off the budget discussions, that principal balance of a remaining amount is about $22.1 million. So we have that invested right now for our Pliget account, which is Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust. That's generating year over year and sometimes multiple times within year, because we do about, 180 day to 270 day maturities for that. That's generating interest that's paving your roads. So that money paved Hillendale. And so right now we would have to pivot away from that in order to take that balance down, which would then actually reduce the amount of available interest because you just don't have as much printable anymore. So I don't know if that would be a policy decision that the board and community would have to make to do that. But that's at least what the strategy is because as a priority, and of course implementations for trails and parks is a priority, roads is number one, and that's based off of the community survey inputs and a lot of the issues as well. So it's a balancing act. You have to decide what you want to do.
Any other questions from the residents? Mike, you're up again for Barclay?
This is offering a lot to more than just our area, I think. Are we restricting it just to New Garden Township residents?
No.
Or it's not?
Public access.
It's public. Okay, that means somebody from Delaware can use it or any place.
California,
Okay,
if they
that's
would.
good.
Long drive, but it'd be nice.
I'm not against it as such, but got a question. To offer this much to anybody, somebody ought to have a membership or a user fee. I can see it being basically supported by the township, but it seems like to me, it's broader than that. Am I missing a point? That's a lot to be offered.
Now, I questioned in our last meeting, the survey that we sent out, there was an overwhelming response for needed trails, needed amenities in the parks. But my question still today is, what's the actual head count that is using those? Are we doing the most good for the most people with the money that is being spent? I know a lot of this is public money. It's coming out of a different pocket, though. It's coming out of grant funding.
And I see,
Still tax dollars.
I see the potential for private partnerships. That would seem that they would have to charge something.
So
They're not gonna give their
that's something,
services away.
that's something that Chris has been working on, and I agree 100%.
It just begins to think, and I'm not against it, let's say this, especially with White Clay Point coming in there, the children, I'm interested in children having a place to grow up in nature.
If you think about it kind of locationally, and it's one where all of the, like the comp plan, every planning document in the township, there is an exhaustive interest in, obviously outcomes like this, access to open spaces, not just securing open spaces, but be able to like get on them and walk around in them as well. Trails that are kind of bucketed into an area where you can go and just have like a dedicated spot. And so I would say definitely the townships rose to the occasion to secure and improve, we'll call them with the plans to do it for all three locations, but three locations in the end state, which would be the golf course property up in the northwest side of the township. That's 106 acres of open space with already a pre-dedicated trail of a golf cart path that's currently in progress today. We're in the middle of implementing the first phase of that for that project. Of course, we have the legacy project here, New Garden Park, which is utilized pretty heavily on a day in and day out basis. And then you have this one in the southeast end too. So in terms of just overall access to these properties, I think that's in alignment with the vision for these as outcomes in the community. In terms of implementing them and having the funding for them, we're trying to scrape everything that we can that doesn't exhaust resources out of other piles dedicated for other priorities as well. So it's a difficult balancing act. But at the end of the day, the board has kind of said that these are priorities, but we're funding them in areas that don't pull away from others, if that makes sense.
I can't say I'm against it by any means. I'm a farmer and I appreciate being able to have lands preserved there too. Next thing. I was in the other day just to look in there, came in off of 7. Where's the entrance? You can get in there now. It's chained off. You can't go in. I didn't even try to walk it or anything
Yeah,
here.
so-
Can I come in off of 41 where it used to come in the old Lafferty place? Is that where you're talking about? Can we get in there now off 41?
So the existing kind of viable entrance to the park is off of Route 7.
7. You
Right
can't
here.
get in off 41 now then.
You can't get off of 41. No,
Okay.
that's closed off. I mean,
Right.
this area, so the main park is closed off to the public currently.
But eventually you'll come off 41.
Yeah.
All
So,
right. I'm
there's
with you.
existing public parking here if you wanted to go out and take a walk on the trail.
I'm not confused to where that entrance, my dad was assessor of the township and I was in there in the 50s when we came in there and that big old house burned down in there. We went way back in there to find Mr. Lafferty and there were big quarries in there where kids swam. So I got a degree of familiarity.
Just to clarify the reasons for that too, when this was studied initially by our transportation engineer and they looked at all of the feasibility of entrances, the one that is the existing one on Route 7 was deemed the worst of all of the three from an access and safety standard. That's why we're doing the grading project on Route 7. But they said that ideal one would be one off 41. Well, that is a closed off private property. Of course, that's where the white clay element of this comes in. They would give us that primary gateway into the park off of 41. And we would have signage kind of out front. Of course, that's part of the negotiations with the developer to improve those at their cost, not ours. And then the one that's kind of in a bit of state of flux, but it was recommended for circulations and public safety access into the park was one off of Reynolds as well. And so that's kind of your three primary gateways. Those three that were that were originally discussed, 41's the preferred, Limestone, or excuse me, Reynolds is the second, and Limestone would be the third.
Another question. The future use of the dump, I don't know exactly how it ties in there. I don't even know whether it's adjacent to it or not, but I felt there was 8 acres in there. It seems to me to be going to waste. It should be. It's right here, yeah. You know, I'm just throwing this out to you, not to be a pain.
The goal is to pour more stuff on top of it to keep it out of the public eye. No, there is no use for
My
that
thing
property
is,
other than.
I don't know about Nixon Park, but I'm sure there was a dump out there at one time, and there's a lot of places have been cleaned up. I would certainly think you couldn't build on it or drill a well in it. But that can't be used in some kind of a public way. It's just a waste then, in other words. It seems like a waste that should be turned into something. Well, the proximity there, 8 acres, that's a pretty valuable piece of real estate in a way, but you understand the limitations potentially there, but then there's a potential future there for the public too.
Certainly, and again, it would have, has to be determined what its condition is and what it can be.
Are we doing anything about that? Or
At this point, we're moving forward with the improvements so that people can.
it would just seem to me
Fine.
not to overpower you. I'm not trying, that's my opinion this way. It's not a way, it's just the way I am. It just seems to me it'd be appropriate to bring it along too, because it seems like there could be.
Well, this is just a preliminary. This is current. This is what we're going to move forward with now. So there are a lot of other projects that will be forthcoming
All right.
as
Well,
time
thank you.
passes.
That's enough. You're thinking about it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Barclay. It's all yours, Bob.
Must be tonight. I see some opportunities here. You got a development, you want to put 650 homes in. It seems like that's a no-brainer to me from this board and the township manager. Why don't you make a road to go across the park area there? You got a road going into the park from the new development, take it out to Route 7. Then it's not going through Somerset Lake. People don't want that to go through there. All you're going to do is get all that funneled right through there. Get together with the engineers from the developer. They got plenty of money. They're looking for a place to build their homes. They don't care what they got to spend as long as they can get out the other end. I think your agenda was a little bit backwards. You talk about 32 million. Just before that, you're talking about trying to house poor people. That's really not a good way to do it, in my opinion, but well, you had the 32 million up. I'm sorry, wasn't 32 million, but there's several millions, right? But there also is property in that St. Anthony's that was bought so that it wouldn't be developed. Why couldn't you work with the county to use some of that property to build homes, low income homes on that property by the park? It's taxpayers' money. That's all.
Yeah.
I won't bother you again.
Hey, hold on. Love you all. We let you talk a lot. You're welcome.
So just to,
I can't, we have to address this.
I was going to, correct, I was going to dump this over to the solicitor because that needs to be clarified.
in answer to why we can't build a road across the park is, we used township earned income tax open space funds. And that's restricted, what can happen there. But we also have a grant from the county and DCNR that restricts it. So that would not allow us to build a road across it. They're restricted.
Yes.
Came from the county, somebody's got to talk to somebody. Tell me it's not a try, not done.
I understand, but as it stands now, we can't do that. That's what we have to abide by. Okay, thanks very much, but we're stuck right now.
And just to clarify, that would be a direction of a policy decision that's collective between the board and the community. As a manager, I implement the vision based off of what's set up there. So my understanding is this was bought to preserve as a green space for public access. And that's why this plan is reflected today. To pivot away from that, you would have to have kind of more of a community buy-in to understand that they want to have houses here instead, which requires an unencumbering process. And we would have to pay back our open space board fund 1.23 some odd million and reimburse the county as well. So I'm just saying those are decisions that you would have to make to do that. And seek court approval to do that. Yeah. And that's okay. Thank you.
Mike?
And just for the record, the question was, because it has to be recorded, I think, from asking questions, the question is where would the proposed Reynolds Road access way be in the park, correct? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the Reynolds Road runs along the west end of the park here. So at some point along the road, I don't know exactly where it would be. The road into the park would come off, kind of come through this field here and then connect down into the pool area. Yeah, here you go. Stay right there.
When you come down from the school, down Reynolds Road, then there's the big loop that goes around. You're supposed to go 15 miles an hour or whatever. Then there's a little house there with whatever on the left-hand side. There's a house at the top. So I'm asking, where are you going to come down close to Stan's property to go through to make the road? Is it going to be up on the top? Are they taking down the house there that has the?
No, and just, I'm sorry, the tie-in is through the proposed part of, and it's probably one where they probably help to kind of have that vision of that part of the site concept plan. Nothing's been decided upon too. It's still in the infancy of planning concepts and stuff, but so still clicker thunder here. So based off of the proposal from the developer that has not been approved by anybody yet, it's a concept plan. So the traditional White Clay Point development kind of went around here and then kind of stopped, like right here. And this was a separate property. It was owned by another individual. The developer Stonewall purchased this property to add to theirs. So essentially it would come straight off of that line from Reynolds Road, almost perpendicular to, I'm sorry, who is that? Okay. Straight perpendicular right around, I think the concept is around the bend in the road. So that would be almost looked at as a potential like stop sign, like a controlled intersection there and coming into the park. That was the proposal for Reynolds there. So it wouldn't be above or below. It would be pretty much right through here. And I'd pull up the map to show you, but you know, the curvature in the road, it's like almost at that exact same point. So think of it like a three-way stop potential there. Close to the bend, yeah. You should know. You live right there, so why don't you get up here? All right. But that's it, and it was basically proposed for multiple reasons. One is as a second best option in the park. 41's number one. as well as it provides better circulation for public safety access. It's been for sale for a very long time. Stonewall just got it. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, it looks like a kind of like an eye, if you will. It has like a upper section, then like a lower section, and they have proposed site concepts for that part of the property for residential purposes. It's single families in that area. Does that answer your question?
The second entrance that you said in 7 would be the third entrance.
In terms of priority from a just like a safety perspective, we're still trying to make this one more safe because it is off of a primary artery. So this one is a great access point if you improve the conditions along the roadway. The problem is we're just doing grading. You would have to like widen in that area. You have to put in like a dedicated turn lane. Like you would have to improve it overall, and that increased the cost of the park. But the number one access would be proposed, and one we would market for when we put out all of the, hey, come to the park. We would basically propose everybody come off of Route 41, because this would be a controlled intersection, signalized, and it would have dedicated signage to come down in here. And it already has almost the infrastructure comes up into this area as well. So it goes through the, correct. It's just one where, from a planning perspective, that's what was proposed.
Mike, Community Day?
Is that, are we out of questions?
I think we're out of questions. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone's feedback. Appreciate it.
There's no like, I guess in this instance, there was no really like vote on anything tonight. It was more of like, is this the direction that you want us to continue? Do you want us to continue negotiating, seeking additive investment from the developer into the concept for the park? And then 3, are you amenable to coming forward for when it does make sense to seek those RFPs for the phased areas to that for these structures? Because we're going to have to seek private investment for those. They're just really, really big ticket items. And this isn't for like a today or tomorrow. It's just, people won't be like, where is this coming from when we say that based off the direction from the board, you want us to go in these directions?
Yes to all 3 of those.
Okay.
Anyone else?
There is no vote. It's just, is this
Consensus.
sentiment analysis? I'll take blank stares for a yes.
No, I think you're heading in the right direction. I would like to see grant money and corporate money pay for almost all of it. I don't really want to dip into the sewer money at all. I don't want to dip into the rest of our funding at all. I definitely don't want to raise taxes. So, but I think you're heading in the right direction. I like it to be a passive park. There's already access for the residents for part of it, and I'd like to get access for the rest of the park.
I agree with Ted. And the phase plan gives us options in the future, but I think we're going in the right direction.
Sorry.
You're on the spot.
Just give me a second to switch presentations here.
Okay, I promise this next part is going to be a quick one. New Garden Community Day is only 3 weeks out now, so I just want to give a quick public update and let everyone know it's right around the corner and what to expect from the event. So we partnered with Mighty Writers and Kennet Area Community Service to host the event this year. It'll be taking place Saturday, October 4th. Chris, this doesn't work. There we go. Event date Saturday, October 4th. It's going to be rain or shine events between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. Set up and cleanups between 9 and 7. Estimated guest count between 750 and 1,500. We have over 2,000 people interested on Facebook right now. If we have good weather, expect us to have a good turnout again. We had about 1,500 people last year that came out. We'll be using the entire site, all New Garden Park, as well as the township portion of the park here. For event safety and security, we've already connected with Avondale Fire, EMT, Fire Police, and the Police Department to help with those items day of the event. Trash and recycling, actually that's Republic, but trash is taken care of. Restrooms will be on site, staff needs, so event organizer, volunteers, and park staff. We have about 40 spots for volunteers that we're looking to fill. We have about like 10 so far. So if anyone's interested in volunteering to support the event, please reach out. There's a variety of things to do, from helping set up, direct traffic, work game areas, and things like that. So we'd appreciate any support you can provide. Entertainment, we'll have a DJ. My seat of Renita, it's someone from the community who, she looks like the Wendy's clown lady, like not in a scary way, but like an approachable, fun way. And she does balloon animals and games and stuff like that, and walks around like a boombox. For food, we'll have On the Roll, Dancing Taste Buds, a soul food truck. Mighty Writers Food Station, we'll have complimentary apple cider donuts while they last. The Kona Water Ice will be there as well. For beverages, we'll have Iron Hill Brewery, Harvest Ridge Winery, and again, complimentary cider at the township station. For activities, and again, all these activities are free of charge to anyone who comes. So it's pumpkin painting, make your own scarecrow, hay ride, yard games, bounce house, face painting, hay maze, and a scavenger hunt. And right now we're over 30 vendors, so we'll probably end up with 35, 45 vendors day of the event. This is the flyer that's gone out on social media and circulating in some local newsletters. Something else of note is that we have a Fill the Truck food drive event that CAX is helping us facilitate. So if you come out, please bring some non-perishable items to help support the community. Every item that you bring out, every donation is eligible for a prize that you can win. So you can win something fun. I don't know what it is yet, but I promise it's going to be cool. Here's the yard sign. You'll see these have been distributed throughout the township last week. So there's like a yard sign jungle out there right now promoting the event. Here's the banner. It's up in Kennett Square and in Tough Kenneman currently. Here's a quick layout. I'm just showing you where parking is at, both for vendors, the public, 88 parking. All of our vendors and kind of events and games and everything are featured here, like in the center of the park. The hayride starts there, and then it loops around the service road through the field and comes back. It's like a nice little 10-minute ride that will adjust depending on how busy it is. Fire police will be stationed out here in Route 41 to direct traffic. There'll be additional portable LED sign here, just alerting folks that, hey, there's an event ahead, caution. Community Day Policing EMS, we talked about that earlier, but they'll be located right here in the center. There'll also be a first aid station at the Lyceum. We had a bunch of everything aligned last year, and we had a ton of yellow jackets for some reason, so there's a lot of bee sting care that was required. We're hoping we don't have to do that this year, but we will be prepared for it. And then while there's no rain event, the severe weather plan, should we have to initiate it, would be to move folks into the Lyceum, the Quonset hut, and then the police station. Any questions? Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many donuts did you order?
I double, so 80 dozen.
Triple it.
Triple it, okay. Well, come early to get your free donut and cider.
Yeah, we ran out in like an hour, so.
Yeah, it's quite busy last year.
Still Deerfield's doing the maze setup.
Deerfield setting up the maze and helping us with the hayride.
Thank
The
you.
hay maze was a big hit. A lot of kids got a lot of fun on that.
Moving on in the agenda, we've got a couple of escrow releases. Can I have a motion to approve the reduction of the secured funds for the Copper Leaf development? The amount of the reduction would be $356,487.45. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the release.
Is there a second?
I'll second the release number 5, correct?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the Stonebridge escrow release number 6. The amount is $153,359.91. Stonebridge is the Thompson tract, Longwood at Stonebridge on Thompson Road. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we release the escrow funds in, for number 6 for Stonebridge.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we've got the Harrogate North Plan Amendment. Chris?
That's me, I think.
And it's more of a
Thank
mini
you,
item.
Annie.
The original land development and subdivision plan for Harrogate North had an open space calculation that was to be surveyed after 75 units were built. That's now happened, so the plan is going to be amended just in the narrative by the note on the plan that had the open space calculation based on the future survey of the 75 units now reads, open space is delineated up to the rear of the units. All units have been constructed and an as-built survey has been performed. The open space has been recalculated and the new open space delineated. So if you just move to authorize the amended plan.
Just some context and background. This was actually brought to us by representation from the Harrogate North community. Robert, I don't know if you want to give some segues, but essentially is the plan in of itself as a condominiumized plan and the inability to issue out like deck expansions and permits for individual homeowners that wanted to do those improvements to their properties were restricted based off of the original calculation. So
Correct. It's a condominium community, which when the builder built all the houses and was done, there was no provisions for you to put a deck on or a patio or anything. So when you looked at, from a zoning perspective, there really was nothing in the plan that gave you guidelines. So that has been included in the amendment to the plan. So there's a couple of things, and those calculations had to be included for the open space because of that.
this gives them the ability to kind of do what they want on their property and gives a procedure for the township to follow and be consistent. So it's a good outcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Is there a motion to approve the Harrogate North amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have the 229 Laurel Bridge driveway.
So this, the owner is over here with Tom Shire with Hillcrest, who requested the waiver. This, as you can see, back in Chester County images back through 1993, and Steve, you may be familiar with the property, shows a cut through the woods. It's, as Tom has presented, as the design professional, that it's be about a 30% increase. The ordinance only allows for 14. If it exceeds 14%, then they need to go through and get a waiver from the Board of Supervisors, as the memo shows. I don't know if you have any specific questions to it, but the memo's there. It's pretty clear. Township engineer reviewed site visit and agreed that the cut that's currently there would be less invasive than if you had to do switchbacks and go up through the steep slopes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we've got the Act 205 pension plan fiscal year 2026.
So this is the minimum municipal obligation for the funding proposed for the FY26 budget. So it's essentially just giving you an awareness that this is the calculated amount. So there's no real vote on it per se, but just in terms of an update, it's about 9,000 less than last year's, just based off of adjustments we made in payroll and staffing in the last year. So this will be reflective on the planned proposed FY26 budget. If you have any questions.
So we're going to approve the amount, right?
Oh, it's not an approve, I mean, you approve the amount when you approve the budget, but this will be reflected upon that in the budget. It's just making you aware. This is part of Act 205 says that we have to tell you guys before the end of the month, in September. So we're telling you in the business agenda here.
Okay, so we don't need to vote. Great. Next, we've got the Bucktoe Road stormwater pipe replacement.
And Kenny, I don't know if you want to come up and just speak to the condition of the pipe, and then we can talk about what it means from a budget perspective and just what caused it.
Good evening. As you can see, there is a proposal for $62,000 and some change for a pipe replacement on Bucktoe Road. Back in early July, when we had that big rainstorm, a giant sinkhole opened up. When we investigated a few days later, the bottom of the pipe is rotted out just from age. It's a corrugated metal pipe, and it's a semi-active stream that constantly runs through it, so it just failed over time. It's a 42-inch pipe, I believe, about 150 feet long, across somebody's front yard, underneath their driveway, through their garden, and the whole 9 yards. So instead of digging the entire thing up, we were going to reline it with the snap tight, which we've had good luck with in the past.
In terms of funding, this would pull from the remaining amount of funding that we have for culvert replacements in the general fund, but we do have additive savings from the paving program from this year, so we would combine those two to pay for the pipe, but it's also based off of the condition, it needs the repairs.
Thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome.
Motion to approve it, that's part of it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the snap tight stormwater for the Bucktoe Road property in an amount not to exceed $62,960.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we've got the truck traffic restrictions paving analysis.
So based off of the continuation of understanding how to enact a weight-based ordinance, nothing is decided upon any draft or provisions or language tonight, but that's what I'll say SCC, Southern Chester County Regional Police, in terms of their ability to enforce, they're coming back and saying that a weight-based model is the one that provides stricter enforcement. So with that, a pavement condition analysis would be complementary to the existing one that's more about the actual right-of-way and like the line of sights and the curvature of the roads, which was done already. So this would be kind of like that was phase one, this was phase two to target that weight-based restriction. This isn't to say you couldn't do any sort of combination of everything down the road. This is just to inform the future ordinance to make sure we get it right. And it's, like I said, it's more of like a procedural process. So we have remnant amount of engineering fund for the year, and this would be a continuation of that policy approach.
Couple questions. So we would have the ability to do not only for the vertical, visual, the width, the turning radiuses, this would also allow us to restrict it by weight. You can do both.
Correct, because it does a boring analysis in several parts, and it's in the scope of work about understanding what is that actual limitation from the structural integrity of the road.
So if Hillendale Road, the new section is included, we should not do the study there because it will support, because it's done correctly.
That's a very good comment. Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. From what I saw
Talking about weight.
before and after in Chris's pictures and looking at it.
And that would be part of the update, would just be getting that information.
Now, and I hate to continue to spend more money, but there are roads that people should not be cutting through in their trucks, period.
And the only way to do it by weight is to have it.
You got to do core sample.
You
Yep.
can do it by length, axles,
Right.
without that, but in order to do weight, you have to.
Vertical and horizontal alignments and turning radiuses.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, Kenny, what's your thoughts on Hillendale Road? So the second half would definitely be restricted, but next year it will be rebuilt. I mean, do we cut this, reduce this down a little bit by not doing the study? Or maybe I'm way off base, but I'm gonna say that that's gonna support a triaxle. Your thoughts, Kenny?
Yeah, I'd say the first half that we did pass almost any weight restriction within 3. And then next year, the rest of Hillendale would be done as well. So I would think we could take Hillendale out of that scope of work if we wanted to.
Right. but still have the ability on Hillendale for vertical and horizontal alignments.
Correct.
Okay.
And just know that it's also one where just because you're on Hillendale, the issue is those vertical laterals going up into the sites too. So from a policy perspective, I just want to make sure it's like, there's still kind of an understanding that
We're
there-
not
you
taking
would,
Hillendale
you would
off
be
the chart.
traveling a truck into an area under a false pretense that this is good, and then they go to turn on the load that they can't get on. So I just want to make sure we're considering just procedurally what that means in terms of a policy. And that's going to be one where, Hillendale to where is kind of the next level of the discussion. So I just want to make sure is there like a length restriction on Hillendale? And that like is still, because it's still the curvature of the road, it doesn't have great turn radius, even if it is depth wise prepared. So that would be under consideration still.
And then when we get to home base and we come up with all of the data, who's going to enforce it?
It has to be police.
Actually, I think the police one, the weight is just easier for them. We're finite to enforce.
Easier. So how do we go about, if we want to take Hillendale off, how do we amend this?
I don't know what the add-on would be for that part of the study, but you can say without Hillendale, I can come back even, because it's more of just progressing through the motions to get this policy kind of commissioned for a potential review. So it's no, we're not up against a wall here. So it's just,
Right.
if you want to get it right, we can come back next month with a reduced scope and you can vote on it at that time.
So how about if I make a motion that we approve the study based on the manager's recommendation or the manager's approval with the reduction of Hillendale Road? He can, that won't hold us up a month, right?
Is that right, Kenny? Okay.
Good, Kenny? That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope.
Done.
Next, we've got the Comcast franchise renewal.
Yeah, this law provides that Comcast we can advertise a hearing for all the people to come in and discuss what they like about Comcast or dislike. So that's what that's for. It's just public comment about Comcast behavior or in New Garden.
All of this is part of a broader, we're in the midst of our renewal of our cable franchise agreement with Comcast. Verizon's going to come a little bit down the road as well. It's not far behind it. But with that, you negotiate kind of the franchise agreement. We get revenues from the cable providers, and they of course try to expand their kind of whatever it is infrastructure that they would back into the community. So it's like a capacity terms and conditions of whatever they might be bringing in to improve whatever they're trying to do. And then of course, the value back to the township from a revenue perspective is updating those terms and conditions. And so what the township did is we went into a consortium agreement because a lot of other localities in Chester County are doing this exact same function today. So with that, the cable renewal actual negotiations are being kind of centralized through the Cohen Law Group that was bought in by 13 other townships in the Chester County right now. And so that's where that is playing out. This is part of the process to do those kind of incremental meetings needed to be required to get on record to complete the negotiation. So this ties into a bigger process. Just want to make sure that's clarified. Yet to what we understand today is it's still too premature. It just started. Yeah.
So we need to vote on, we need to approve this.
Authorize the advertisement. That's it.
Okay.
The meeting will probably be next month or like the public hearing.
Can I get a motion to authorize the advertisement? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we've got the manager's report.
So I'm just trying to carve these out as kind of more discussion topics that have come to the township's attention within the last few weeks. Starting number one with, so we have an existing facility use agreement with the New Garden Growers Market to utilize our public works facilities for the purposes of having the actual function there. But with that, we've been notified by their leadership that they are likely either dissolving or no longer having that management structure for the New Garden Growers Market. So essentially, we have a nonprofit 501c3 as an entity, but no board, no real leadership. And then you have the vendors who participate in the growers market. So with that, the viability of having an active insurance coverage from them to utilize the site as an offset to the township's liability for them utilizing the site is at risk, because the terms of the facility use agreement dictate that they needed to have not just an insurance policy active, but also be an entity that has activity behind it as well. And so right now they're in violation of certain terms of the facility use agreement. But it's also one where we don't want to just shut down the growers market. So with that, we're trying exhaustively to reach out to anybody who has contacts with that. I know Winnie has already reached out as well to get some information, but just wanted to get your input. It comes to it. Is it based off of the inputs that the solicitor gets, is do we need to move in that direction ultimately? It's not a fun decision.
And there is a facilities use agreement that I think they're in violation of, that has a provision for a 10-day notice. I did get the insurance policies showing that they're covered. The term runs until close to Christmas, I guess. So I guess I'm just looking for direction, because there was a person who started it who kept it organized. Apparently it is less organized now. We do have an insurance policy. They are still a viable nonprofit corporation. However, they have no presence on GuideStar. There is no 990 that they have filed. So I would like to explore that, because they are a nonprofit corporation, but I'm not sure that anybody is a member of the corporation, which concerns me. So I'd just like to be able to pursue that if I can.
So what are you looking for from us? The right to,
Just an authorized to pursue, to confirm that somebody is actually in charge there.
yeah.
That there are actual members.
Yeah, for me, I would like to see it continue. I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for them, but we can't have it there if they're not active and they're not keeping their end of the bargain. And certainly we cannot have it tomorrow if there's no viable insurance.
Yeah, I saw the policy today, same, so I think that's in place. It's just, I'm not sure there's anyone in the organization that's bothers me.
Correct. Okay.
So we will continue. And then last but not least, and this is probably the one where it's 9 o'clock at night, and this can go on for an hour if you wanted to. Everyone loves to talk about management of trees. So this is the most common complaint that we get in the townships in terms of just what can we do, specifically Public Works. What's the township's role in maintenance of trees within the right-of-way, outside the right-of-way, on private property? Is it a PennDOT or a PICO issue? It's one that it's never going away as an issue, because we have a lot of weak trees. There's been a lot of issues with just trying to be more preventative and proactive and making sure that they don't fall on infrastructure, vehicles, you name it, injure, hurt, and kill somebody. So with that, and it was also recognized in the community survey to have more functional maintenance of trees, but how? You have to create a policy about it. So that's one where before we started just coming with here's the plan, we wanted to get a sentiment of the discussion about where you would want to target focus, what are limitations, kind of structure that, and then we would come forward with a potential policy, not an ordinance, a policy that we would actually target as an implementable program for the township. Because of course, this is also within budget season. I need to know what it means to maintain lots of trees or little amount of trees. That'd be helpful.
Would you like a tree lecture? A tree lecture?
So I'll give you a tree lecture.
And it's a sensitive issue, and everyone wants you to manage the trees on your property as it comes over to theirs too. So I never get a call about somebody about the tree on their property. It's always their neighbor's property.
Correct. Yeah, the biggest problem we have with trees is due to the deregulation of public utilities. So
Just want to make sure you're speaking on the mic.
Verizon along Baltimore Pike, I would recommend using another road. If you walk down underneath of the trees, you will understand what I mean. The wires are holding them up. Yes. Route 41 across from the firehouse, if there's ever a little windstorm, 41 is likely to be closed and you will not be able to get emergency apparatus out of the Station 23. 41 by the church down here, same thing. And every one of those trees are leaning on Verizon or Comcast wires, which means as a property owner, I can't touch them. If I damage that infrastructure, they're coming after me. The bell's ringing.
And just to clarify, that's the township as well. We can't touch trees on wires. So I'm just making sure.
Is this a complaint? Like, how do people complain for this?
The most common one is it seems to be a future issue, like an imminent fall, like, and that's what it kind of is. So you have the widow makers that kind of branch out over the crossways of a right of way. You're looking up and that thing doesn't look healthy. We think it should be taken down. Like I said, it's not their tree, it's their neighbor's tree or they're driving through. So it's one where private property owners have that kind of innate responsibility today to remove the tree, but they have to willingly do that. But it's one where what do we do and what can we do from authorization to enforce them to have to take it down? That's where a policy would come in, but we would have to be kind of thinking about what that means of mandating tree maintenance within the township. It's kind of, you can see how
And that would be for us to take on?
and that's what I'm saying, how much, because we are the ones that field the calls.
Is there just?
I get a lot of calls about trees.
On the webpage so people can complain?
We can do that, but it's, in fact, they have that ability today through the 311 kind of citizen reporter that we have to do it. And we do get those,
They're just growing hard.
but we normally tell them there's nothing that we can do because of
Right.
some of the
I
instances.
think they can complain to directly that where it would be recorded.
There is. I've already done that and put them on notice. Personally.
But like, shouldn't more than just one person do it? Like, I know Kenny submits a lot, you know, for the township, but I personally would think if 10 people did it versus, no offense, you're a big deal, Kenny, but. Right. Like, I guess
Trees.
the trees on the power lines and whatnot.
The trees on the power lines aren't usually a big deal. Eco,
We'll take care of it.
say, are pretty good about.
Verizon.
It's Verizon and Comcast
Yeah.
that are.
They don't do
Where,
it.
where did I just hear those two
I
names?
understand that there's a public hearing coming up talking about the potential renewal of the franchise agreement, so that'll be included. Little insider knowledge on that one. But that's one where it's also, if it falls on a state road, PennDOT's is the issue. So there's things that we can try to do to bolster up their responses by making sure that they can understand where the issues are. Their responsiveness to that is one where I'm sure you're kind of screaming into the void because it's like Comcast and Verizon. We do have good relationships with the governmental representatives from PICO and PennDOT to a lesser extent. And it's, like I said, it just depends. But it would be more for if it's on a township-owned road, it's on private property, it's not hanging on a wire in a situation. I think that's the one we probably want to target is what do we do about a complaint about a tree to maintain it? And not on wires. This would just be one that's leaning or looks like it's going to fall. I think Winnie
Yeah.
probably has the good input now of what we can do.
Feeling your show, Winnie.
I can actually do a memo for a tree memo, so
Hey.
you understand.
Do you speak for the trees, though?
I do.
Okay.
I do. The second-class township codes reference to trees and roadway is called shade tree. So it protects anything over 6 inches in diameter. We have to do a resolution if we're going to take it down, even if it's in the right of way. We have to chop it up and give the wood to the property owner. That's just one element of the shade tree. If the trunk is in our right of way, ultimately we could take it down if it's a safety issue. If the trunk is out of our right of way and the branches overhang our right of way, you can cut the branches back. You can cut brush, you can cut anything that impedes sight distance unless it's a 6-inch tree, in which case you got to notify the property owner. We have to do a resolution. So the second-class township code as to trees is to protect the trees more than it is to protect the traveling public. PennDOT, same deal. If the trunk is outside their right-of-way, they can't take it down. They can cut the branches. If it's in the right-of-way, they are not restricted by the 6-inch. But it's their responsibility for the trees in their way.
And Kenny, just to clarify from a percentage of work kind of standpoint, because that's really what the policy dictates, is just how much additive labor is going to be done by the township in terms of the difference between obviously going out and clearing a tree from the roadway that has fallen versus the ability to essentially like a bucket truck or something like that to be able to do branches kind of up, higher up. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was alluding to. Because you would have to.
Seen a number of letters from them recently telling property owners that they are responsible for taking down the trees.
They are ultimately.
Even within the right.
No, they are. If it's a very new development, roads, and that's not PennDOT, that's the township. So roads we've taken dedication of are typically actually deeds. So we actually own the right of way, and that's different. But the old roads that were just, created, most property descriptions run to the center of the road. So those people, they're responsible, but ultimately we can take it down and charge them the cost. If it's 6 inches, we got to do a resolution, But yes, ultimately they are responsible.
Which will be.
We just can't cut their tree. We can cut brush down and small trees. We can't cut big trees down without giving them an opportunity to do so. If they don't, we do it. I could also write a site distance, but I don't know that you want, or I've done that to, so that people who own real estate and have trees and bushes that interfere with site distance at intersections, that we can cite them. If that's a problem, we can do that.
So from a policy standpoint, I think that would be one where if it's one that's going to be additive cost to the township to provide this as a service, and knowing that we don't really have the tools and capacity, we would likely have to contract that function out. And so that would be one where, do we want to also implement some sort of administrative fee or fee function to it? So we would perform the service basically as a fee would be correlate to the amount of cost added from the contracted service. So it would hopefully kind of zero it out, but we would have to flesh out the numbers based off of how many requests that we get and stuff. And of course, most of these things always happen during a storm or afterwards, and it's always one where the availability of contracted tree removal agencies is very slim, at least in the immediate state. But would that be the direction that you would want something like this to go? Or it's just one where kind of do like PennDOT and just kind of push it back to the property owners to take care of it themselves, but we at least notify them? Yep.
I mean, it sounds like we're.
Or just to continue to because right now the status quo is we basically are kind of hands off about it, other than obviously the removal of stuff in the roads.
Right.
We don't do anything else really outside of that.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just not qualified to do it at this point in history.
Correct, but we would be able to contract that. I'm just saying, is that the direction you want us to go to seek those types of service as additive expense that we would have to implement a fee to be able to, it's like that kind of Pandora's box situation.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say no. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah, I would just keep the policy the way it is. Fine with that?
Yeah.
Because also another one too is we don't really have a policy. So the policy would be, we would have to create one and write it to what we do today, but at least in terms of it's something on record, which we can provide forward and you can just approve it as a policy for approval at a future date here. Lots of fun tree discussions.
Yeah.
Is that?
Do you have any idea of how much it would cost, or is it just?
No,
something
we'd
you
have to
would
really,
do
it's just if you
separately?
wanted to do it or not. Otherwise, we would be spending time on just kind of looking at something that wouldn't be popular to do.
Right. For every single tree?
For every tree.
For every single tree.
Yes.
Cool.
You'd probably have like 100 resolutions
Yeah.
a year just for trees.
Every tree. But you can't take it down if it's entangled.
Which is most of the time.
Yeah, which is the problem.
And I agree, that's something that the township could at least push back on heavily on Comcast and Verizon to take care of those issues. But that's one where outside of those, because there's no one singular tree issue, it's kind of a lot of different variables with it. This year, yeah. Yep. Okay. So it sounds like more leaning towards just kind of keep the status quo, but create a policy around it just to codify that and we can continue forward. All right, and push our service providers that also have a skin in the game for this and make sure that they're doing everything that they should be doing. Okay, thank you. That's all I need.
I just had one more item. Ken Pratt had a question about the transportation impact fee we talked about last month. Do you want to come up, Ken? Ken says he's a builder and he just wants to know if he meets the definition of a builder for the transportation impact fee.
So the keyword isn't builder, it's anybody going through the land development process. So if you submit a application for a land development, you are subject to paying the fee. And the fee's been kind of authorized and approved for the impact of your development creating trips. So whatever development you do, if it creates more vehicular traffic on that property, that's a trip on a metric-led basis that's studied by the engineer, and then you pay per trip what the fee is, which is $3,600 per trip.
The question I think that I had was if it's.
Does that answer, I'm sorry, first thing, does that answer your question? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
On my property, but I would consider a builder for that one house.
Yeah, that would be one that wouldn't,
Right.
yeah. It's land development. Yeah, to clarify, it's land development. You wouldn't have to submit an application for land development for that one. So no, it would not apply to you.
So what is the threshold? That was my question. So is it
The threshold is land development.
more than one single family home?
I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. Do that. If the definition of land development in the ordinance is more than one single family home. So if you're building a single home on a single lot, no, that's not land development.
I didn't know what the definition of a builder meant.
It doesn't really mean anything. It's land development that matters.
Anything else from the board? Uh-oh.
We can speak offline, Barclay.
Here comes
Hurry,
Bart.
gavel.
I always appreciate being educated. I know. Own a farm. I just learned something tonight. I own the center of the road.
Yep.
Township mows my road bank.
Yep.
All right. They're mowing in the right of way. Okay. Now let's say you got a tree. Why can't we get somebody like Kenny? If you had one of these big boom mowers and just put that boom mower up there and take the limbs off too when you come down.
Yeah, Kenny, why can't you?
That's a good question. But I'm not
Wear
hey,
your, wear
we're
your
planting
safety
some
glasses.
trees. No, I planted. I learned. Kenny, you'll shoot.
Because the ordinance,
Kenny
the
needs
ordinance,
some bigger
Trees
more
on my
than
property,
toys.
off the right of way, never given a thought about the overhang so much, but it was more for beautification. And now I'm looking at the liability more so because it's probably 30 years later. And now I'm beginning to find out something that I own as the center of the road. So those limbs on that road are my liability. Now, for your legal thing, township mows the road banks on my property, which is in your right of way. Why can't you take a boom mower up as high as it'll go and just come right down along? I wouldn't care a darn bit. Let you do it.
We'll get the small dump truck and we'll just swerve into it next time.
Serious, I'm not joking. I'm very concerned because my limbs are getting out there too. Yeah. the township mows my road bank. All I'm saying is if they have that type of mower, why can't they just come down there and do it?
Do we? We don't? I don't think so. I've seen like the state has it, like with the PennDOT has it.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Barclay.
Barclay?
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
No.
Is there a second?
I don't know, I'm having fun.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?